We're going to figure this out at some point. Good morning. Well, it's not morning. It should be morning, but it's not morning. I am Courtney, if you don't know. If you haven't lived under a rock for the past 3 months, I apologize. My face is everywhere, but now I have the beautiful Tyler Crossnoe with me here. And we are now, they say once you do something twice, it's a habit. This is our second time doing this show, so it's a habit. And for the second time, I'm going to say, let's join the class, sir.
I had to share the post, just like everybody else should that's logging in, see everybody's chiming in. Hit the share button, put it out there for us. We're going to talk drag racing. We're going to talk PDRA racing. A little bit delayed here on Saturday afternoon.
Start with that. What happened last night and this morning?
It rained. Surprise. It's VMP and it's Tyler Crossnoe, so it rained. Shocker. No, team got to work. We had a little bit of rain yesterday, ended up having only 2 qualifying sessions for our fields, and got here this morning, and it rained again. So we are back on rain delay. Got on the racetrack right at 12:10. We were projected to be on the racetrack at 12, so I'm happy with that. Top dragsters rolling down the racetrack right now, as you've seen on Flow Drag Racing this morning, and we are rocking and rolling with eliminations already here at the PDRA Kaiser Compressors Mid-Atlantic Showdown presented by Classic Graphics.
What does that do for the professional session today?
It gets really, really tough. Round 1 becomes a little bit tougher. You're coming in with 1 less run than you expect. But at the same time, you're coming in with 2 runs yesterday that were very, very good, and you're under the same conditions today.
So we're just going to roll right into that. But before we do, what's the projected professional time on the racetrack today?
Professional time on the racetrack, somewhere between 3:30 and 4 o'clock for first round. Probably be around, I'm going to say 7 for round 2, 9:15 for round 3, and then finals at 10:30.
You ain't got nothing better to do on a Saturday night. Put FloRacing on and watch PDRA
This is the place.
racing.
And if you're not at FloRacing and you're around this place, get here. You can see the place in the background, man. We've got trailers everywhere, over 300 cars yet again here at the PDRA. And we're going to put on a show here at VMP right here on home turf.
Our background is better today.
It is, actually. The windows are clean, actually.
Shattered.
No shattered. We're in good shape.
All right, so let's just dig into this. We promised Tyler and I can talk for eternity together, especially, but we're going to do our best to keep these at 20, 30 minutes. So we're going to roll right into the action. We're going to start where our sheet starts here. Pro Nitrous. I just shot an opener for the show, and I led with the champ is back.
Champ's back. He wasn't gone. Let's just say that. It's funny. We all said the same thing. We were like, dang, what happened to Franklin and Halsey at Galot? Well, they semi'd. That's not a terrible weekend.
But they win.
But when one of those two is not in the finals, and when neither of them are in the final, it's like, oh boy, what's going on? But Jim Halsey back on top on the qualifying sheet yet again, 2 races in a row.
You said it. I can say it. I can reiterate it. Yep. Jim Halsey, Tommy Franklin. I feel like, and I don't mean this in a negative way towards the class, it's just the way that it's been. They've been dominant, and it's been the Halsey and Franklin show for a long time now. And Brian Schrader last week just came and disrupted that. Schrader
came in, drove a really good race, as well as Robert Hayes tuned a really good race 2 weeks ago at Galot Motorsports Park. Here this weekend, they've struggled. They've struggled in qualifying, but then there's been some new faces coming to the class that have looked really strong. Marcus Butner comes in as your number 2 qualifier. Tommy Franklin, as you spoke on, is number 3. And then Buddy Perkinson, moving up from Elite Top Sportsman, makes a hell of a lap yesterday to go 365 to put him in the number 4 spot. So I'm not going to say that it's going to shake up any, but I can tell you.
You've got Father Time, as Lyle Barnett calls him, too. We've got Ricky Smith.
Ricky's back. The retirement tour 3.7 continues here in 2024 for the Parkway Ford driver of Tricky Ricky Smith.
Yeah, not only did he not retire, he didn't pick one series. He was at NHRA whenever we were at the lot. I interviewed him yesterday, and I'm going to put it to social here because it was so awesome. He said, well, Courtney, I ain't 35 no more. I ain't 40, I'm 70. I drive my own rig. I got to see what I can do. And I ended the interview with, well, retirement sure looks relaxing for Ricky Smith.
Fact.
Jeez, so Pete. All right. Oh, I can't believe we didn't talk about Keith Haney.
I was going to say, we got one more that came out for the first time since 2017. Keith Haney makes his way out to a PDRA race. Midwest Pro Mod was not able to run their event this weekend. Keith looked at the guys and say, put this thing in the wind. Let's go to Virginia. I want to go
22 hours.
That's a long way.
That is a long way. But I think that that's a testament to, talked to him yesterday as well, to people kind of think, I think there's this unspoken thing of like, it's a series versus a series when you guys have similar rules and you have similar classes. But guys like Keith Haney, like as soon as he knew they weren't racing, what does he do? Loads his shit up and comes to PDRA, and that's he got to bring his daughter in the junior, and everybody gets to race. So,
well, and like we say it all the time, yes, at certain races we make it a rivalry, we make it fun.
Well, it's fun.
But the guys that race in Midwest, they have a spot. That's a spot for a Midwest Pro Mod racer to go because PDRA is not able to go that far
and
to the West
it's
anymore.
honestly a
It's a
geographical
geographical thing that's perfect, and it fits really well. Courtney, you didn't speak on your marquee matchup for Pro Nitrous that you had circled in your box. We're going to revert.
Well, okay, I kind of did. You're right. I did not. The marquee matchup, in my opinion, is going back to the Halsey and Franklin show that once was. Franklin has the race winner of last week in Schrader. Now, Franklin qualified number 3. Schrader qualified number 12. That doesn't matter. And when we talk about the next class here with the field, that does not matter how tight it is.
It definitely doesn't matter on the next one.
No, but I think that's going to be your marquee matchup right there. I don't know why I pick what I pick. It could be really any of them. But those are two names that I think, given the newsworthy situation of the last race, that one stands out. So I know where you stand on that, and maybe I'll just go the other way just to go.
Hey, it's going to be a tough one. I know that much. It's not going to be easy for either one of them.
Can I flip the page now?
Yes, you can flip.
All right. So the thing I'm most excited to talk about, Pro freaking Boost. So yesterday, if you guys weren't watching, first off, shame on you. But if you weren't watching yesterday, when the rain hit, only one pair of Pro Boosts had gotten on the racetrack. Now, those two cars weren't in the show, and on the scoreboard it said 61 and 62. The bump was a 64 at this point.
Yep.
By the end of the session last night, we now have the quickest Pro Boost field in the history of the PDRA.
It was unreal. We were going through the rain delay. We're fixing the racetrack, and we're all sitting there going, okay, hey, first thing to touch the racetrack are teams that have to be in the field. They have to come around the corner and go, I got to look at that 364 bump spot on the board, and I have to be going faster than that. And I was walking past through the tunnel. Gavin was spraying the racetrack. Jimmy was on the rotator, and I'm walking.
You weren't on a tractor?
I was not on the tractor or sprayer.
Oh, my Lord.
I'm trying to let that go this year. And I'm walking through the tunnel, and Jeff Pierce stops me, and he goes, hey, man, Preston's first out. How do you feel? I was like, Jeff, we're going to be good, man. I'm not worried one bit. And he goes, are you sure? Because I have to run that to get in the field. And Jeff was really nervous about it, which we all were. I mean, you have a 3.5-hour rain delay and no sun, no anything to get that thing back. And Preston comes out, turns loose the button. First run to the finish line since all of his mishaps at Galat, goes 363.8 and puts him on the bump spot.
Yeah,
for the toughest field ever. Yeah, 363. Congrats. You barely made the show.
Did he, correct me if I'm wrong, because I have been wrong once or 3 times before, in Galat, I think I remember in an interview him saying he was from the outside looking in on the last qualifier as well, looking at the board.
Yep, he was.
And if he wouldn't have had the mishaps he had, I think he had a great shot at winning that race.
He did. It's been a wild start to the year for Preston Tanner.
It's been an expensive start to the year.
Sorry, Andy.
So that leads me right into what I think is the marquee matchup, because as the number 1 qualifier, you're supposed to earn, maybe not a gimme. There are no gimmies in a 363 field, but you're supposed to earn a little bit of a breath of fresh air. Melanie Salemi qualifies number 1 with a 358.5, mind you. And what is she rewarded?
Preston Tanner.
One of the best levers, one of the most consistent teams. Yep. I think that's going to be a heavy hitter today. And honestly, I'm not saying this for dramatics. Could literally go either way. I mean, all of these could, but it could go either way.
Courtney says that's the marquee matchup of the round.
We disagreed on this one.
On the other hand, I have my eyes on the 8-9 matchup. Chuck Olsch made a move in the last 10 days, has changed over and now in the WIO Motorsports camp. And Chuck has come out and ran career best numbers in testing and in qualifying, put himself number 9 with a 361. And he's parked alongside the Hells Bells Chevrolet of Johnny Camp. Johnny making his first run back in the Pro Boost runs this season, and Johnny comes out and goes 361.2 to be number 8. So 6 thou separates them on the time slip, but that one to me just kind of screams, hey, don't take Chucky Olsch lightly. He's made a big move in the last 10 days, and I would, that's going to be a tough one.
Well, there's another thing that you earn right there. You go career best, and you're at the bottom half of the field.
Yeah, get some of that.
Congratulations. No, that was really cool. We did disagree on that. One of the storylines that I have to say on this deal, and we don't like to be negative, we're not being this way, but it is for dramatic effect. Now I am saying the winner of Galat, not in the show. King Tut, we talked about him being back in his throne, not in the show. What the hell?
So wild. Like I made a post last night. Our social media guys shared the qualifying sheet, and I shared it on my personal page, and I said, just look at the names above the do or done line, but also the names below. You had
do or done line.
The do or done line, like that.
DUNN.
So you had Scott Lang not making the field. You have Todd Tutterow not making the field. Marcus Burt comes over with Tommy Yeoman's brand new car, doesn't make the field. Nova Joe Albright with Fletcher Cox's team doesn't make the field. Like,
Lang.
you could have
Scott
your own race with the teams that did not make the field at this event, and it is flat out
Don't
unreal.
get any ideas. We don't have time for that.
No, we don't have time for that today. Sorry to tease that. I am so sorry. I didn't mean that.
But I feel like that's something you'd be like, hey, here's what we're gonna do
Check
now.
out this 8-car shootout.
No. I said one of these before we move on. I really think also here, Jason Lee, you hear that name, you expect winning results. He does it in any series that he goes to. Struggles a little bit here, but you can't ever count him out. And Kurt Stedding was so pumped with that run last night. When I talked to him after, I said, were you expecting that 59? Was there more? And he goes, no, I thought we were going 62.
Yeah.
So,
and Kurt drove
testament
it too.
to the track. Again,
My guys will do a good
so
job.
I think that's another one to watch there. Obviously, I mean,
There's
of these
8
guys.
good matchups.
Yeah.
When Pro Boost comes around the corner, you better either have Flow Drag Racing on or have your ass in the seats, because that is
4
the
cars
class.
sub 360. Jesus, we're
I love
moving
Pro
on.
Boost.
Oh, I'm so excited for this. Pro Street, full field.
Speaking of Stedding,
Ethan,
the young gun.
the young gun, he was so pleased with what he did last week or 2 weeks ago. If there was a race, the last race is last week.
Yes.
He was so pleased. They didn't qualify at the top, but they were so pleased with what happened.
Yep.
Kurt was pleased with how he was driving. We talked about him on the show. I talked about him on Flow. Goes to the top.
Straight to the top. And it was after the rain delay. That was not a run that happened in Q1 when the racetrack was a little bit more run through and had a little bit more rubber on the racetrack. But he comes out of the box, in my opinion, and really just says, hey, my dad just went 59. I'm a couple pairs back in the same lane. Hey, Uncle Todd, crank this thing up. Let's go.
So does that help the settings when Todd is solely concentrating on them?
You might want to watch out for the Stedding too today.
That's going to be insane.
Proud of that kid. So such a good kid. So calm behind the wheel at 16. I was driving at 16. Courtney, you were driving at 16. I don't think I was that focused at that age.
Well, kids that grow up, we talked about this on the last show. You built a system here at the PDRA for kids to not only as human beings, but as drivers to mature in a way to where once they get up to the speed and in the cars that they want to, that they're prepared for it. Yep. Kids like Ethan Stedding are absolute testament to that. And we see them on the NHRA side where they're winning Gator Nationals and things. This is why the Junior Dragster program and the PDRA does what they do. And I think it's so cool that families get to come out. His little sister's still racing juniors.
Driving
He's
his
now
car.
running Pro Street. I hate for this to be the Stedding hour, but this is the Stedding hour, folks.
Impressive.
And it's going to be awesome. But you cannot talk about Pro Street without talking about Kincaid. What the hell is he doing?
Racing. He's racing.
He has not lost a round.
He's not scoreboard chasing. He's racing. That's the difference. A lot of people get lost in chasing a scoreboard, chasing a number. Tim and Scott Kincaid have raced up and down the racetrack every race that they've parked in the parking lot here at a PDRA event. And it proves it because they've taken on the trophy every time.
You can't count out Brown Sugar, though.
Brown Sugar. He's got a tough one with Jerry Morgano. Morgano's kind of like throwing darts at a dartboard. Every now and then you're going to miss the board, but dang, when that one hits, it's going to be good.
And it's just so beautiful.
It is pretty car.
It's so beautiful. So do you feel, what is your marquee matchup there, sir, since we agreed on, or disagreed? Are you going?
So I'm going to go 2 things.
Okay.
Two things. Brian Weddle debuts a brand new car out of 1320 Fabrications, comes straight out, goes to a 3-second range, and qualifies number 5. He made his first run in the car here last Friday.
Oh, shit.
And comes back and goes, hey, I think we're going to have a good hot rod. I'm like, okay. Well, then he goes straight to number 5. So shout out to Brian, Jason Avey, and the crew up at 1325. They did an excellent job on that car. It's gorgeous. My marquee matchup is Richard Reagan and Ron Green.
Oh.
The reason why.
Number 6 and
number 11. Reagan, your higher qualified car, but he knocked the motor out of it last night in the second session. So I think I saw them swapping a bullet last night as I was leaving at like 1 o'clock in the morning. And hometown runner Ron Green, he will definitely have the fans in the stands to see the Chesterfield, Virginia-based Trans Am. So that's my marquee matchup.
And that's why you watch Raceday PDRA, because you find out information that I didn't even know. So there's our Pro Street. We're moving on to my favorite, Pro Stock. What was cool about yesterday, we hate the rain delay. Oh, shoot, we got Randy Lynn Ship watching here.
Speaking of Pro Stock,
Speaking of Pro Stock, you're perfect. Excuse me, RL Butner. I just cannot get used to your new name. You're always going to be RL Ship to me, Rocket Ship. We miss you out here, but I'll see you next week in Charlotte. Congrats on getting your quarter-mile license.
That's did it at the best place in the world.
You did.
You got a really sketchy signature on it, but you did a great job.
What I really enjoyed about yesterday was sometimes when put it on Courtney mode here, after Q1, getting interviews for Q1, you and I talk about where's the most efficient place. Are we going to do it at the top end, in the pits? Where's the storyline? Storylines are tough for Q1. When we're only getting 2, storylines are kind of tough for that too, because if there's not a lot of moving around, what are we going to talk about? I've never seen more moving around in my life than I saw yesterday, and the Pro Stock field especially, but every single class just completely shuffle after round. And Pro Stock, Johnny Placino, again, when you thought he might be struggling for a second, he wasn't, goes right back up to the top, 404. But I want to ask you, because I kind of did you think we were going to get a little bit closer? I know we weren't going to get it, but did you think number 1 qualifier was going to get a little closer to that 4 flat?
I did not. After the rain, I knew there was still going to be some water in the air. I kind of expected maybe a 3.
I figured a low 3.
But I was not expecting too much. But what about Placino? Goes from the outhouse to the penthouse and from Q1 to Q2. And really the story in my book for Pro Stock this weekend is Elijah Morton. He looked probably the worst he'd ever looked in his career since I've been around at Galat. Comes back out here, goes 405 at 177 to be number 2 qualifier. And I talked to one of his crew members earlier in the day and was on a better run than that in the second session and broke 3rd gear. So I'm not going to say that's the team to watch, but he is only 0.06 of a second behind Johnny Placino that made a run in better atmospheric conditions. So Elijah Morton might be one to watch here today.
It's so crazy to see a guy like Elijah, who's usually joking around and happy, as down and out, and he was at Galat. And
it hurt me. I was like,
to interview him yesterday, to feel him upbeat again, it was really nice. But I've got to say, one of the most impressive things about Pro Stock, I said this a bunch of times last year when he came out, a breakout racer of the year for me last year was Jeremy Huffman.
Yes.
He comes in and just destroys things. He's like, oh, I'm a casual racer. I just want to come to compete with the best. Bullshit.
Straight
runner up, all these things.
Yep.
Runs really well. And I actually found out yesterday, which I did not know, that run that he made for Q1 was the 3rd run he'd had with that EFI. I have watched people, some of the smartest people in the world, struggle to figure out EFI. And like the nicest, jolliest guy ever is like, oh, we're going to try EFI. And he comes in and they're so confident and they're so calm and they're just along for the ride. And I think that has a lot to do with why they're so successful.
Yep. Like you said, qualified number 3. And he's got a tough runner in round number 1. Number 10 qualifier, Daryl Stewart, with Chassis Engineering and Clayton Murphy and that gang on board. So that might be one to watch. That one's pretty. There's all good. All our racers are badass. I'm sorry. I can't help it.
You did want to mention about him?
Yeah, I will say that Jordan Insland qualified really, really well yesterday. Sometimes Jordan is kind of out in left field, and sometimes Jordan's right in center field. You never know with Jordan some days. But tested really well on Thursday, comes in qualifying, makes 2 good runs, goes 407. So the Insland bunch might be kind of sneaking up to make some noise. It would be good to see the young gun do some rounds in the Pro Stock class.
Somebody I like to see do well in the Pro Stock class because he's the happiest guy in the world, Steve Boone.
Oh, most definitely.
And he had an incredible weekend in Galat. And I've got to tell you, my interview guys that were on the camera with me have no idea who any of these people are.
Oh, yeah.
Don't care about the personalities. They have the technical side. I deal with personalities. Both of them walked away from this going, I'm a fan of that guy.
I like that guy.
He's got a Fisher hat on. He's just like, I'm so happy to be here, y'all, and I just want to win. I love Steve Boone. I love all these Pro Stock guys, but and gal, Randy Lynn.
Yep.
But I think that, if I'm going to pick a dark horse, that's probably going to be my guy.
Not a bad one. Number 2 in points.
Nope. We are doing really well today,
We are doing
Tyler.
well.
We're going to talk Pro 632 here for a minute before we let y'all go.
Bit.
We got to a little bit because
this class looks so good this year.
It does. And
oof.
Amber Franklin, I want to dive into this. I know people give me shit for talking about Erica Elite. They give you shit for talking about the Franklins, but when news is news, you have to talk about it. And what you and I talked about 10 minutes ago before the show started, the driver that Amber Franklin is and her mental ability and what she's doing, you kind of know how to navigate that. But how hungry is Amber Franklin?
Amber's hungry this year. I was actually at the shop over the winter whenever she had to pull the number 1 sticker off her car.
It's devastating.
And I was I think she's going to cry. And we made the joke of, hey, you're number 3 this year. At least do it for Dale or something. And then, the numbers it doesn't look like it. But we were like, look, you at least got to do something fun with a number. But first 2 races of the year, she's qualified number 1. The run last night was flat out unreal. And really on these things, we've talked about it in 632 before. You're only going to make so much horsepower. You're only going to make so much.
I mean,
the jet is only so much, anything like that. That car left the starting line like a flat-out rocket ship last night. Went 961 to 60 foot. I think that's the best 60-foot time that she's had in the car ever. And lays down a 413 at 171 miles per hour. Really, the speed's down in comparison to some other runs that she's made along with others. But that thing was nasty leaving the starting line last night. And Tommy and Jeff and that whole crew, they've put Amber a pretty good horse for her to sit in. But now, got to get it done on the starting line.
Yeah, she does.
Lost on a whole shot at Galat.
But girls like her, drivers like her, excuse me.
Yep,
when that happens, I feel like the next race is just –
she's hungry.
It's unbelievable. We talked to Jason Harris about that. He was so mad up at the top end
yes.
Galat at himself. And it wasn't horrible, but he was mad at himself.
Yep.
I said that when you've got a chip, drivers who are winners,
win.
They take that to their advantage.
Win. And that's why.
I got to go. If we're going marquee matchups here, I think there's two for me here. We haven't seen a lot of action out of Lexi Tanner, but I feel like she's same way hungry.
Yep.
Lanigan's always steady, but I'm going Nickel and Melnick.
I agree. Doug Nickel.
Those are two huge names for first round. Come on. That's rude.
Nope. You can have that one.
Okay.
I'm going to go the 7-8 matchup. Newcomer for the year, Bobby Bladen, with a car that we've all seen with Brian Kloss behind the wheel in years past. And he's going to face off against last week's winner, Andy House. So that one might be one to watch. Both have been in the 14 range for elapsed time, either at Galat or here in testing. So Bladen and House might be one that's going to be tough, and the winner of that faces off with Miss Amber Franklin in round number 2.
We've hit it. You want to touch on anything else? We've got all the sheets here if you want to run through anything. We've got Super Street, Moda on the top there.
Yeah, Moda looked good. Jamie
Red
Miller and
Hat
team.
Mafia. Yep. I mean, you just can't deny that.
Oh,
but Denton's damn near getting his Kincaid run here. Elite Top Sportsman.
Another fast field in Elite Top Sportsman, Elite Top Dragster. Even in back half dragster, the bump I think was a 439 again, and that's 64 dragsters that are quicker than 439. Just unreal. The shout out to the racers. Thanks everybody for hanging with us. Even the fans in the stands that came yesterday, people that watched on the line on Flow. Thank you for hanging with us yesterday. The weather throws all kind of curves. And
it wouldn't be PDRA.
It wouldn't be people dragging rain around the PDRA series without a little bit of rain. And really the things that we all kind of have based this season on is control what you can control. There's no reason to get mad. There's no reason to do anything about it. There's no reason to yell. You can't control the weather. And we're going to do the best we can.
Remember that next time you walk in race control, people.
Yeah, control what you can control. No, but we've kind of taken that approach this season, trying to keep everything light and fun for everybody. And people came up yesterday, and I was out on the blower, and we were just laughing and joking with each other in the middle of a rain delay. And everybody's like, "What is wrong with you?" And I'm like, "There's nothing you can do about it."
It's not like you haven't dealt with it before.
We've dealt with it before. We've taken a right hook. We've taken a left jab. We haven't got the knockout punch yet, but we're planning on.
We finished early in Galat.
We finished early on PDRA Raceday. We're not going to finish early on the racetrack tonight.
But, I mean, it's going to be awesome action once the sun goes down. Who said we've got all night, right?
Yep.
I mean, is that the official word? We've got all night.
We've got our curfew here is 11 o'clock. I talked to our sheriff's department last night. They were going to give us a little bit of a grace period. So if we've got to get it done, we get it done. But the goal is to be done by 11 o'clock. Start at 12, done at 11. That's the plan here at the PDRA.
What is this life we live?
Thank you for tuning in. Thanks for sticking up with us. Almost over 100 people the whole time. I am so sorry for boring you on a Saturday afternoon.
I think we're pretty awesome.
We're pretty fun. We always talk good racing, and
we may do this for us instead of them.
I think we do at times. There's only one more thing that you have to do today. You got to go watch the rest of this race on Flow Drag Racing if you're not here.
Yeah. So we better see you there. Listen, thank y'all again. We're going racing now. Tyler's got to get on a tractor or something.
Let's go. We'll see you on Flow. Pros are coming up soon. Enjoy the show.
It's always that extra click.
Yeah.
As we sit here awkwardly.
This is awkward. Racing.
Has it ended yet?
I don't know. Probably not.